Hello friends, welcome back to those of you who've been here before. Welcome to those of you who are new to the channel. Please like and subscribe if you are new. I'm Lauren-Jane, CT1, core surgical trainee, mother of two, which is why I look so tired, and ex-graduate entry medical student. So recently I was an OSCE examiner, trying to buffer my core surgical training application. So I went along to my local surgical society and I was one of their examiners for the mock that they were running for their 5th year medical students. During that experience, I had such a kick myself moment because doing that, being an examiner, taught me so much about how I felt I should have been approaching and navigating an OSCE. Still useful for me, obviously, because I've got MRCS Part B to pass, at some point in the future. But I kind of wish I'd known this stuff during medical school. So I'm going to teach you what I did and the way I think that you should approach OSCEs. So let's get into it and let's go. Okay, right, so when I was an examiner, best will in the world, I wanted everyone to do well. But the reality is it's easier to give some students marks than it is others. Now, if your med school is anything like mine, you've probably heard the phrase slick been thrown around quite a lot. You've got to be slick. And what does that mean? It means we've got to be fluent. We know that, we get that, and we've heard that. But actually it doesn't mean very much to you in terms of how you go about attacking your OSCE. So, as an examiner, I'm standing there, I've got a clipboard, it's got the threshold of marks on it, it's got all of the things that you need to do to score the marks. It's exactly as you're working from in your OSCE guides, right? But now imagine there's two students. The first student has a really great structure because this is all about structure. So, student one has a really great structure. So they go through the things in their examination in the same order that they are on my clipboard. So, I'm not looking at my clipboard, I'm looking at this student doing their examination and okay. The other student, let's say the student who jumps around, so let's imagine that this student knows the examination, slightly less confident than the first student, but they know the examinations, but they get the order of things mixed up. Now, this is really easy to do when you're nervous. So you're doing a respiratory examination, you move down to auscultation, you think, oh my goodness, I need to check the trachea. You go back up, you check the trachea. In your head, you're like, well, I've done it, I get the marks. I'm an examiner, I really want to give you the points. So I have come away from auscultation and I've gone back up to tick the trachea. Right now, you've moved on to something else. I'm trying to give you the marks, but I'm looking on my clipboard to try and work out where the trachea is because we're now no longer in the order. So it's difficult to stress this, but even though it only takes a couple of seconds to find it on the paper, if students are jumping around a lot in terms of the order of and the structure of their OSCE, I am no longer watching you doing your examination because I'm trying to find on this quite long and quite lengthy mark sheet the thing that you've just done. So what that means is I'm not watching you. So you might do something, something that only takes a split second, like, palpating for a pulse or checking for a trachea. I've missed it. And you're working through it. You think, well, I've done all of this, I've done all of that. I want to give you the marks. I want to help you out, but I'm jumping here, there, and everywhere. And I can't give you the marks because I'm missing things because the best will in the world, I'm trying to give you the score, but it goes so quickly. This is what I want to stress to you is being an examiner is quite difficult because the students are pushing through things so quickly. And if you're jumping around trying to give them the marks, you just end up losing the thread of what they're doing. So it can be quite difficult. Whereas the students who are going through in a really logical structure, you don't have to do that. So you've barely got an eye on your clipboard because it's the next one. It's always the next one. So when I realised this in my OSCE, I realised that actually I probably was guilty of this and this was probably costing me marks. So the key here is you have to make sure that the way you structure your OSCE has got to be right every single time. And I know this is like, you know, it's like saying, well, just make sure you know your OSCE. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I'm saying is you're going to go to all of the effort to learn how to do all of the steps. It's really important that having done that, we just make sure that when you go in, you're able to appreciate how much a good structure can, you know, add to good marks, which is why I wanted to make this video. So what can you do to try and make sure that you're smashing OSCEs? So the first thing is appreciate how much this structure is important. The second thing is, and I would advise this with OSCEs, is it's really important to know the steps of your OSCE long before you need to know the steps of the OSCE. So what I mean by that is, if you're going into final year, when they're assessing you, they're not necessarily going to be assessing you that you know the steps of an abdominal examination, or more likely a respiratory examination. What they want to see by that point is, are you picking up the findings? So if you prep early and make sure that these steps of the examination are like second nature to you, not only will you be able to bang through the structure, because the thing is that when we're under pressure, things go out of the window, right? And you get nervous and you forget things. If you know these examinations inside out long before you need to, hopefully when you get into the examination, stuff goes out of your head, but you're still able to kind of bang through in a coherent structure. So if, for instance, you're watching this and you're a third year medical student, my advice to you would be to spend a couple of miserable weekends right now just really getting on top of the main examinations so that you know them really well. Abdominal examination and cardiorespiratory, and a couple of the others, neuro. Just so as you come through, you're constantly refining and you're able to focus on pathology rather than the steps of the examination. And just keep in mind that structure is key. Resources that you can use: Geeky Medics, absolutely fantastic for OSCEs. Make sure that you're practicing with a friend, because obviously these are practical examinations, and try and get feedback as well. So if you know the examinations, you're going to feel way more confident about going to a reg on the ward and saying, look, I'm not really sure what parasitism feels like, or, you know, am I doing this fluid through correctly? And then once you've kind of got this structure down, you can focus on getting through it quickly, because obviously the other thing with OSCE examinations, especially with finals, is they will ask you to do a couple of really random things sometimes within your couple of minutes. So it won't be do a cardiac examination in 10 minutes or 8 minutes. It will be to do the examination, review an ECG, and deliver some sort of information to the patient. So if you can bang through this OSCE really coherently, quickly, with no stress for yourself, then that is excellent, and that's really what we want to be aiming for. So use the Geeky Medics resources, keep structure front and foremost of your mind. When you're assessing each other, just try and criticize each other if you are not hitting that structure. So just remind yourself that the threshold is not just to kind of do the examination within the time. Try and, as part of your practice and criticism and feedback of each other, try and make sure that you are doing things in a logical order, the sort of order that an examiner can follow. Use the Geeky Medics resources. I still use them now. If I'm doing something I've not done for a while, I'll use those. Go to your registrars, your F1s, anyone who you can beg, borrow or steal. Get them to criticize your examinations based on technique, picking up pathology. Do that now. However early on you are, try and I try and stress this, and it's a bit frustrating to say go away and learn the OSCEs, because I know that's exactly what I'm saying, the examinations, but actually you will thank me later if you try and get ahead of yourself now, that when everyone else starts prepping for these examinations, all you're worrying about is how do I differentiate the sounds of bronchiectasis from COPD, while everyone else is still trying to not forget palpating the trachea. So I'm just editing this video and I missed something that I wanted to say. A great tip, I think, is to tell you to go away and volunteer to be an OSCE examiner. It doesn't matter what level you're at. If you're a third year med student, offer to be an examiner for the first years. If you're a fifth year, offer to do the marks for the fourth years and the third years and all of that stuff. Because when you do the OSCEs and you see it and you pick up things that some students do well and the things that some trips other students up. So it's really worth your time, actually, away from just portfolios and doing all that teaching stuff, just for the sake of understanding OSCE technique to go and be an examiner. So I just wanted to add that on the end. So thank you for watching. Have a lovely day.